So on National Signing Day was Wednesday, and I've released a lot of videos on commits that ended up committing to Texas A&M, and the comment section was full of, "Wow, I wonder how much money they gave him," or "Wow, he flipped to Texas A&M over Miami or LSU because they offered him more money," and all this stuff. And there was a report that came out on a message board by a guy by the name of Slice Bread, talking about how Texas A&M's boosters put together a fund of over $30 million to give out to recruits in this class to bring that talent in. And it left a lot of people angry. And it kind of was a slight loophole in NIL and a bunch of other stuff. And I know this is kind of a controversial topic to talk about, but I don't get, how am I going to word this? I was going to release a video on this last week, and I got a script written out and everything, and I didn't feel right. Didn't feel like I should release it. But I don't get why people are so angry about this. Texas A&M is not the only school doing this. Schools across the nation, not just in the SEC. I mean, Texas has their own fund. You got to think the Alabama boosters have their own sets of deals and are just not as vocal, or it's not in the public. And there's different laws in different states of what you can and can't do with high school recruits. And I think Texas A&M kind of just took advantage of what was going on. Is it wrong? That's debatable. I mean, these guys have this platform and aren't always coming from the greatest situations. So when you have the opportunity to make this amount of money as a player at a young age, life-changing money for some of these guys to help your family, can you blame them for taking those deals? Can you blame players for doing what's best for their families, whether that's getting on the field immediately or not? It's hard to judge when you're not going through the situation yourself. Where it gets a little dirty is, should this be where college football is? Should you be allowed to use the money recruiting-wise? You're not really supposed to. And, you know, here's a clip of what Jimbo Fisher had to say on the situation.
Slap in the face or whatever when there's these thoughts out there that it's because a lot of money is being spent, and just your thoughts.
Here's what I'm going to say, and this is point blank. This is point blank because here's my problem. There is no $30 million fund. There is no $5 million. There is no 10. This is garbage, okay? And it pisses me off that people, and here it comes from a site called Bro Bible by a guy named Slice Bread. Then everybody runs with it. So it's written on the internet, it's gospel. How irresponsible is that? I'm going to tell you, there's some very reputable writers in college football and sports that wrote it and have said it and have done things. That's unbelievable to me. When I first heard it, I laughed. I said, oh, yeah, what a clown. I mean, I didn't even think anything of it because I don't have social media. And it kept building, and lately I've heard more about it. To me, it's insulting to the players that we recruited that's why they would come here. You ever been to a game here? You ever come to school here and see the education? You ever talk about the 12th man, the Aggie Network when you're done? There ain't a better university in this country. And it's insulting to what you say. And we got writers who have said it and done it off Sliced Bread, a guy named Slice who made it up. Love to see who Sliced Bread is and put it out there with Sliced Bread. Let me find out where it comes from. And then to have coaches in our league and across this league to say it, clown acts. All right? Irresponsible as hell. Multiple coaches in our league. And the guys griping about NIL, griping about transfer portal, using it the most and bragging about it the most. That's the ironic part. You want character? I'll take it with any of y'all. It's a joke. It does piss me off. The other thing, when you look at vice president, I get another one. Vice president of Notre Dame. Supposed to be a reputable university, right? That's a heck of a person leading a reputable university. I'd be real proud if I hired that guy. Read it off Sliced Bread. But they say it because it's written on the internet. We worry about the kids and social media and internet. How about grown-ups? How about the guys that are supposed to be setting the example? How about writers who are supposed to be writing the right thing? How about coaches who are supposed to be doing the right thing? And I'll tell you what, I know how some of those guys recruit too. Go dig into that. I know the history, I know the tradition, I know things. Trust me, you don't want to go down that avenue. It's ridiculous, and it's irresponsible, and it's unbelievable. I ain't just talking about one. Multiple people got NIL issues. It's funny, when Nick Saban said his quarterback got an $800,000 deal, it was wonderful. Now it ain't wonderful no more, huh? But ours, we ain't got that. Ours are on record what comes up. We ain't doing all them big deals. Ain't none on our place we know of. That's funny when you do it. It's hypocrite. And then we gripe about the transfer portal, and you guys take more than everybody. What's about that? And what goes on? The hypocrisy is a joke. It's an absolute joke, and it's insulting to our staff, how hard we work, to how we do things. It's insulting to Texas A&M, because there ain't a better place to go to school and play ball. We don't like it, we're coming on, get used to it. All right? We ain't going nowhere. It's an absolute joke. The people who put the hard work in and do it. It's irresponsible, but it's funny when they get it, it's all okay. Ball games are changing, man. And it ain't because of NIL and what goes on. It's pretty irresponsible of all of them. They're clowns.
He took offense of people asking about it, and that's all I could say is it's hard whether it's right or not. It's hard whether this should be the game or not between the transfer portal and NIL. I think players should be able to make money off the name, image, and likeness. I think things have just gotten so complicated with that. Do you have an opinion on this?
I do. I don't know if I've expressed it on this platform, but I know I've expressed my opinion before that I disagree that college players should be paid to play. That's not NIL, but they should not be paid to play. And what this sounds like is Texas A&M is paying these guys to come to their school. To me, that's wrong. I would never blame a player for seeing a check and saying no to it. I'm not going to blame a kid for that. The only judgment here would be towards the Texas A&M program. And quite frankly, if the NCAA isn't going to do anything about it, I don't see why they wouldn't do this. The NCAA is very flip-floppy on when they want to enforce their rules or not. And that's where we get major issues. You know, there are times where it's tiny infractions that they absolutely rain down and ban a team from the postseason. And then there's times like this where it feels like a very clear violation of the rules and they just kind of turn a blind eye. So personally, what I think needs to happen in the sport is they need to revisit the NIL rule, make more definitive, like guidelines on what is NIL, what isn't NIL. And at the end of the day, I'm not an expert, so maybe that means I'm a whiner, but they need to revisit those rules. And then they need to start looking closer at these organizations and at these teams and colleges to see who's infracting against these and start raining down on them harder to make it more even. I understand that that's not how this sport and how college football is moving, but at the end of the day, I don't agree with pay to play, and I think that's the only thing to do about it. The counter argument to me is it will happen one way or another, and I understand that, and from that standpoint, that's why I'm not truly getting on a soapbox and preaching to the world how awful this is. But I also think that's a really, really bad excuse. That to me just sounds like, oh, well, the NCAA doesn't care. And that shouldn't be what it comes down to. But unfortunately, that is what it is.
I mean, from the image the NCAA has put out over, as long as I've been alive, it started off as a great organization for amateurism and help athletes. But once all this TV money and everything went in, it kind of stopped doing that. And you know what? Like I feel like the situation where we are in college football, and it's not talked about as much in college basketball. You got to think it's happening in all these money-making sports. Men's college basketball and college football are the two main money-making sports. You can't blame a player. You can't say, oh, you shouldn't take that. Because if any of us were offered $750,000 to go play football at a school we want to play football at.
If I was offered $20 to go play football in front of the Kohl Center right now, I would. Like, you know?
And use your platform to help your family or set yourself up for whatever you can. Because you are also one injury away from having the NFL dream taken away from you. And we've seen it happen over and over again for players. So don't get angry at the players for doing it. And don't judge players for, someone commented on one of my videos, oh, his family, he was going to commit to this school, but ended up pulling it back and got more money from another school after negotiating. Can you blame him? If you were in this situation, whether it's right or not, would you not do that yourself? I mean, help your family out. You only go through this process once, and it's not as huge unless you're a all-star athlete like Caleb Williams or Quinn Ewers to get something like this again. And NIL is complicated. I don't think there's a set leadership that could really help it out. And I think this is kind of what we're going to have to get used to for now. Unless you put a cap on it. I mean, but at the same time, how is that fair? If you cap players' NIL money, you got to cap coaches' salaries. And that's where I get a little annoyed with this, is when coaches that are making $8 to $12 million a year start saying, well, I don't think this is right. But that's just the nature of college football.